was happy and that they were jubilant regarding the victory in this. Even the great leader of the Islamic Revolution also congratulated that victory. And this MP did something against the made some comments against the Geneva Agreement. Now, in the talk that MPs had with Iranian musicians, they said that this move follows certain designs and it wants to cover up the violations in the social security, or also maybe to block the continuation of nuclear talks for a final deal. What's your assessment of that? If you could explain that. And then there's also a request by Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Qatar has asked for the P5+1 group to change to P5+2. Saudi Arabia has also proposed that in continuation of the nuclear talks, Persian Gulf regional countries could also be added and join the talks and for the talks to continue in presence of Arab countries. What's your reaction regarding this? Well, as for the second question, mechanisms for talks, cooperation, and continued dialogue between us and our neighbors. The framework is there, the mechanism is there, and they are natural and they have high potential. So this is out of the question. So the mechanisms are there. Now again, the other question, well, I just explained. So you also added some details that I didn't know. Well, you as a member of the media, maybe this is more interesting for you, but because we look the full, not the empty part of the glass, but the other half. So we look at the interactions more than any other aspect. So for the votes of the MPs, even regarding those opinions that you just referred to, we even respect those opinions. Respected members of parliament are representatives of the Iranian nation. So when it comes to the viewpoints, they are free to make any points. So the constructive viewpoints that would help the progress and advancement of our diplomatic agenda, we will make use of them. Now, we also saw that the support of the other group of MPs in the face of the opposition that was also made. So we have had both groups among parliamentarians. So naturally, there are varied and sometimes contradictory views regarding developments. That's something natural. So there are moves or affections that necessarily there are readings, people in the foreign ministry, well, we don't have the same understanding and readings, but as I said, we listen to all of them and we do respect the people who raise such issues, but we are hopeful that all of us would move toward a national consensus. The foreign policy on the back of national consensus, and with that backing, it will emerge on the international front more successfully. And supporting the foreign ministry would help and would come to our assistance for the goals and targets of the country to be followed. At the same time, we believe in interaction and dialogue with Parliament. We both respect the role of the legislative branch, and also we do believe in interaction between the government branches. So people in the media should also consider that MPs need to reflect their views, and we in the executive branch of the government, we have our own agendas, whether we'll clearly announce them. This is kind of a practice and exercise for us to both have interaction and dialogue and speak together. Then the more logical our discussions would be, the more lasting they will be, and the more useful they will be. Hopefully, we will be able to see further constructive comments and criticisms that would further help us in our implementing our policies in the foreign policy domain. So the other part, there are no questions? Yes, go ahead, Ms. Sharifi. Well, we just raised your hands. You don't notice. Mr. John Kerry has made comments. He said that in 2003, Iran had this proposal of bringing to stop its nuclear energy program. The U.S. did not accept that. Do you approve of this? Mr. Jack Straw's visit also, is that approved? And Iran P5+1, I mean, the experts that talks that are going in Vienna. Is it possible for the talks to continue in future days, or will come to an end today? Now, as for Vienna talks, we have had contacts with our group. The talks are going on today. If it will be prolonged, well, this depends. If experts need to have more discussions, maybe there will be some other rounds in the future. So before having any conclusion, I cannot make any judgments. Well, you also asked about Mr. Jack Straw's visit. A group of British parliamentarians have announced that with the start of the 11th government, they would like to make a visit to Iran on the same basis, a friendship parliamentarian group between Iran and England. They have extended an invitation to them. So within the same framework, Mr. Jack Straw, together with some other British MPs, will be visiting Iran next month. So naturally, we'll have meetings with officials and also respected members of parliament. Well, you also talked about the U.S. Secretary of State who made certain comments. There are numerous officials in the U.S. that made comments. The general concept and the core of what their comments actually indicate the fact that the Islamic Republic of Iran has always been ready to embark on this serious work to remove the concerns of the other party, and we have always expressed this. As to how that opportunity was actually ignored by the West, and then how they went toward pressure and sanctions is quite clear. They just wanted, by exerting pressure, to push the talks forward, but they did not use the opportunity the right way. So we believe that through realistically things could be viewed. At the same time, when there is a lack of trust or mistrust on our part regarding Americans, we are hopeful that they have learned lessons from the past, so talks through pressures will not be continued, hopefully, and that unrealistic interpretations or misinterpretation of Iran hopefully will stop. So there is a window of opportunity for talks, interaction, and to remove this unnecessary crisis. So this opportunity should be used, and through respecting the people of Iran, they need to show that they're taking steps on the path to remove the problems and show their political resolve seriously. From AFP, I have two questions. Our understanding regarding what you said regarding Mr. Zarif's visit to Saudi Arabia is that Iran has made a request, but Saudi officials have rejected this, have disagreed. Is this right? Also regarding American comments, talks regarding nuclear negotiations, the U.S. President and other authorities in their speeches and remarks have said in the final step Iran's nuclear program should be limited to a great degree, both in terms of enrichment or the number of enrichment facilities and machineries or the kind of equipment to be installed, and Iran's uranium resources, they all should be restricted. Also the Iraq reactor, that is that this kind of reactor should not be operating in Iran, and they should use a light water reactor. So will Iran accept these restrictions as final step? Now, as the first part of your question, well, my understanding is that I did not say that Saudi officials did not reject this. I said that they were not prepared enough for the visit to be made, but we are still prepared to make a visit anytime the other side is ready, so the officials are ready, the visit will be made. So the visit to Saudi Arabia is on our agenda. Now, as for the last step that we just talked about, the whole issue, and American officials have been speaking about it, there is this final step that needs to be depicted. We clearly announced that a final step for us is the full lifting of all the sanctions, and to have a peaceful nuclear energy program and to maintain it, including enrichment, and also the programs and plans that we have. We need to maintain them. So the final step is, as a matter of fact, actually, the next round of talks will be moving in that direction to clarify that. So if we, from the very beginning, if we want to make comments regarding them one by one, it's kind of premature. But the final step for the Islamic Republic of Iran, everything is clear. The realization of the basic rights and nuclear rights of the Iranian people in possessing a peaceful nuclear energy, maintaining our program, which also includes enrichment and the operation of the operating sites and facilities that we have ongoing now. But unfortunately, the fact sheet that the American officials have been using after the negotiations has been fanning mistrust. So part of the joint action that have not been announced by them. This is an issue that even by American officials, and specifically by the Washington Post, was also criticized. And there was this criticism regarding American officials in Washington Post as to why those parts have not been published or talked about. So we believe that a final step, of course, there are talks about it, but definitely, even today, it's clear, we know about it, and during the negotiations at the next rounds, we will have to depict that and to further clarify that. Our negotiating team will be seriously following those steps. Yes, please go ahead.
Well, you have been watching part of the press conference from the Foreign Ministry Office with spokeswoman Marzieh Afkham talking about various subjects. Of course, the majority of, the questions asked this morning was dealing with the nuclear deal between Iran and a P5+1, and now the various stages that should be implemented, how they're going to be implemented. And of course, one of the main things that's being talked about in domestic media and also international, as far as that element of trust, this as coming from various capitals, Western capitals, there have been some contradictory statements regarding the deal in general, and what she says basically that the final step, of course, for Iran, the actual goal is the lifting of all sanctions against Iran, and at the same time, of course, of accepting Iran's right for nuclear enrichment. Other main things that were talked about was a possible visit with the Saudis and the Iranian delegation, and that's supposed to take place when the Saudis get themselves together or get more prepared to have that meeting. And also mentioned that some British parliamentarians, led by Jack Straw, will be visiting Iran next month. Well, that has been part of a summary of what Ms. Afkham had been asked. And, of course, highlights or the important parts will be, of course, brought up in the news later on.